The way that things are going with the internet and with AI and with operating in the world with ADHD, it's going to take a special kind of mindset to succeed. In this mindset, we are going to borrow from spiders. This is you, little ADHD spider. So let's be real here. Even normal people cannot raw dog the internet, let alone somebody with ADHD. There is way too much information bombarding you all the time. You have to study almost daily just to keep up with what is going on and the new things that are happening. And if you want to be somebody who's on the cusp, if you want to be somebody who's successful, if you want to be with the times, the skill that's actually going to help you is being able to manage massive amounts of information, being able to take in information rapidly and create outputs rapidly based off of that information. This flexibility and ability to work with the most powerful thing in the world, information. It's my prediction that we're basically going to reach a point where if you don't have some level of computer science or data science know-how, you're going to fall behind because of how heavily we are relying on tech. AI can help you in this regards, but in order to actually make AI help you effectively, you have to be an architect, which means you have to know about the tools that it's using. You have to understand what it's doing and be able to tell it, no, we're going to go this route because it's simpler. Because what I've seen is even though AI is getting very good, think of Claude Code, think of OpenClaw, Nemotron just got released, or NemoClaw. That's a secure, more secure 24/7 agent for your computer. You can have that run locally instead of using the cloud and an API, which if you don't know what that term means, like, you don't need to worry about it right now. What you do need right now is the mindset to be able to learn and to be able to understand in the future. As a business owner, as a student, as somebody with a high-paying career job, like whatever it is, the fact of the matter is we are going to be interfacing with much more information. This has been happening since the dawn of time. We've had to work more and more with information. Why? Because information is power. It helps you create clear executive decisions that make a high ROI. And because it's a sort of non-thing, the entropy tax, which is the tax that everything has to pay, where everything is constantly going back into disorder and chaos and you have to manage it, is much lower. So information creates more power and it has less of a tax to pay. This is why the richest companies in the world are data companies. Think of Google. So you need to be able to use and manage information effectively in the coming age. Actually, in the age that's already here. Now, a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll build a knowledge management system in order to do this. That's awesome. The problem with ADHD is that because our brains typically love systems, we love solving problems, this will turn into the worst procrastination machine ever. You will constantly be tweaking it, constantly doing this, constantly doing that, tweaking out, making a little tweak here, doing this, doing that, going down a rabbit hole, learning this. It's not good. So what you actually need are very clear and clean guardrails so that you can manage yourself effectively. And I'll be honest, it would be nice if you could just have AI or a system that manages you. That's kind of the holy grail that you can think about. But as somebody who has more experience in this than you, I'm telling you that doesn't exist. It's a myth, at least for now. The One Piece is real, but it's not here yet. But we want to prepare for it when it does arrive. So you cannot make a system that completely overrides and holds everything it needs to hold for you. But you do need systems if you want to be more productive, and you do need reminders, and you do need to know how to create your own systems that are going to make you more effective in the long term. But we need these clear guardrails so they don't turn into a hyper distraction. So here's how you're going to manage information. I'm going to give you a framework that is going to help you mentally categorize things. And this framework's really easy. It's just threads. From now on, thread is a variable, which means it means. So threads means relationships, conversations, chats, projects, ideas, workflows, basically anything where there is a starting point and then there is an amount of work or something going on in between until you reach the end product. So a goal could also be considered a thread. But this follows a productivity principle of generalization, which makes things easier to remember and to understand, and makes it so that they fit into more categories. So they basically become more useful. And remember, the goal here is to become useful with information. So the more general you can make information, the more generally you can organize, the better, because that's going to fight off against entropy and having to remember more things. Instead of having like 20 different boxes that you're going to get overwhelmed looking by, you want to have one box, and this box is threads. This is more efficient organization. Here's the other tip for organization is you want to use tags. So it's a thread, but then the thread has a tag. That tag is custom. Maybe it has an ID. You want to start thinking about the way we organize and use information so you can get better at it. Another tip for working with information is you want to use databases. Databases are completely overpowered. Learn what a database is. I'm not going to talk about it in this video. But what you need to know is that because you can get distracted playing with your system, but you need to be able to manage threads in order to understand your surroundings. And this is where spiders come in. This is a very poor spider web, but ignore it. So the interesting thing about spiders is that their web is actually considered a sensory organ. It's really even more important to them than their eyes. This is because they can detect what's going on in their web. They can feel the wind, they can feel the vibrations of animals. I want you to imagine it's sort of like the cup on a string, where you can talk into one cup and then you can hear somebody on the other side of that cup. That's basically how their webs act. So it's not just the thing that catches them their food, it's a sensory organ. Now, different spiders build different kinds of webs, but the connection I want you to make here is that the internet and your computer and your personal knowledge, and maybe your personal knowledge management system, are basically your web. Because what do these things allow you to do? They allow you to sense what's going off a far distance away. Through things like the news, they allow you to sense what's going on with your projects. They allow you to track mental threads and ideas. They allow you to have conversations that are frozen in time with chats on social media. Somebody sending you a message on Discord is similar to a fly landing on a string of the web and buzzing it. And now we're going to make another connection. So what do spiders do? They hunt, but they're cunning about it. They don't usually go out to get the food. They usually let the food come to them. This is very productive because they're working less and they get more in return for the work that they do. That is the entire game of productivity. That is the wealth game of life. So what is the hunt then? The hunt is productivity, because in order to give value and to create more value in your life, you have to go out and you have to seek it, or you have to draw it near to you. The example I'll give you is this content that you're watching right now. This channel is basically a web that catches people with ADHD and draws them into my funnel so that I can make money, so that I can help more people with ADHD and live the life that I want to live. This creates a feedback loop of value of things basically getting better for everybody. And this is why we design systems, because systems can make things better for people. They can make it so that there's less input and more output. They can make it so that the output is more valuable for everybody. So I always say, if you want to be a good person, if you want to be somebody who brings value, you have to want success. You can't just float through life being like, oh, I have ADHD, I'm just going to kind of live and do whatever. It's like, da, 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 da. It's like you were put here by God for a purpose. I know that because you exist. And you wouldn't exist if you didn't have a reason for existing, because God is meticulous. We see this in the Bible. He's extremely meticulous. The cross references in the Bible are insane. Every single verse has another or multiple verses that it ties to, where when you read them in the right way, they completely shatter your worldview and unlock things. So God is very meticulous, and he's basically built a web here within the Bible. So even God does this. Even God builds webs that draw people in and create systems that add value to the world, because what this basically does is it funnels you into a personality that's more like God. So we need systems, and in this age of information, AI can help you manage systems, but you still have to be the architect. So there are 3 different ways that you can build your web. There's the tarantula playstyle, the orb weaver playstyle, and the seller spider playstyle. Tarantulas are what you're most used to. They're basically highly executive. Most of their work is manual. They may have a web, but that web is typically more like a den. Sometimes it's a web that goes out and they can sense things that walk on it and they'll pounce out and grab it. But a lot of tarantulas just wander around and hunt. So I would say this is very masculine. This is very high focus, manual labor. But again, we're talking about spiders and information. So within this context, manual would be like actually like clicking through a spreadsheet instead of having AI do it. This could look like booking a sales call, doing outreach, studying for your homework, physically coding something. Maybe it's a bash script, I don't know. Tarantulas are making more executive decisions of how to spend their energy. It's more of a CEO mindset, but at the worker level. The orb weaver playstyle is interesting, and it's where most people with ADHD want to sit. So orb weavers, they build highly meticulous webs every single day. Every night they go and they eat their web and completely do it from scratch. They do this so that it stays sticky and so that it stays clean and organized. And they also do it so that the strings stay taut so that they can sense things better. So there's this theme of rebirth every single day with their system so that it stays in peak performance. There are also the spiders with the really long legs, and so they basically have a much more extreme lay of the land, and they hate having a messy web. So what this looks like is probably somebody who uses AI and uses their brain to architect very efficient systems that are more efficient than what the AI is going to come up with. Because honestly, AI has the same thing that humans have, where they get kind of lazy and they'll kind of like make a messy system that isn't as efficient as it could be. And this is why you need to use your head, even when you're using models like Opus, which are the best in the world right now. And if you don't know anything about tech, my recommendation to you is to just get ChatGPT, install Linux, and then start messing around, asking it questions. It's going to get some of them wrong, but you can also watch videos. And then I would get the Claude Code Pro plan so you can download Claude, have him code a few things on your computer, ask him questions. It's only $20 a month for a pretty high usage rate. And I guarantee if you just mess around on Linux, mess around with Claude Code, and ask the AI questions, sometimes watch a video, sometimes read documentation, rarely when you need something really specific, you're going to learn very fast. You're going to get up to speed. Technology is one of the easiest skills to learn. You can basically go from knowing nothing to being a tech nerd within a month if you seriously try. And you won't really have to try because this is the type of stuff that the ADHD brain loves. You're going to see endless possibility once you start working with tech, and you're going to ideate like crazy. But the orb weaver builds a meticulous web. They architect it very intentionally. It goes through a rebirth cycle. This is like your AI-backed personal knowledge management system, which you could use Obsidian, which is what I'm using here. I'm going to give you a little look under the hood here. This is actually the setup that I work from most of the time. Right now it's a little bit messy. It needs to go through a rebirth, and it absolutely will. I have one scheduled for Sunday, and there are systems in place that kind of make it garbage collect by itself, but it definitely needs a redesign. And the thing about personal knowledge management systems is they have to be made by you. That one was using Google Anti-Gravity. You can use Obsidian. You can use just the files on your computer and Claude Code, whatever works. If you want me to make more videos about this in the future, let me know in the comments. But that's the orb weaver. That gives you a very detailed picture of what's going on in your life. You're doing a lot of data collection. But the problem with the orb weaver is it's always building its web. That sucks. That's not being productive. So my recommendation is always put the orb weaver on a separate device, personal knowledge, vault system, whatever it may be. If you have enough discipline, it can live in a separate workspace. You need to make sure that the AI is trained properly so that it keeps you on track instead of letting you get distracted down a rabbit hole. The way I do this is by setting directives. So my AI pulls from a directive and it understands the directive for the current directive we're in. If what I'm doing doesn't align with the directive, it tells me to stop. Now, the third system, or the third way that spiders build their webs are seller spiders. And these are the little guys that make cobwebs in your house. Famous example is a black widow. Now, seller spiders are crazy. They don't care. And this is honestly where a lot of you guys are at, is some of you do like systems, you do think about systems, but all you really do right now is ideate and randomly like dump things in notes. And when this is fully materialized, what it looks like is probably an AI agent running OpenClaw, where you basically tell it just do whatever, and I'm gonna like feed you random ideas, and it's gonna like build things, and it's basically completely autonomous, and there's like almost zero human control. This is very, very bad and dangerous because of prompt injection and things like that. Now, the plus side of the seller spider strategy is it's very lazy. You build this big, crazy web. Maybe this looks like you just have random AI agents talking to each other on the cloud and building stuff, and they like pipe notifications to your computer. There's no focus, there's no structure, but it's lazy and you're going to catch something. You can tell it, build me my entire CRM and then manage it for me. And then you may or may not get a good outcome. You could just keep saying like, well, change this, we'll change this, we'll change this. It's very lazy. May not be as effective, but there's less work involved. There's less thinking involved. But I want to introduce something to you, and I call it the tri-weave. One of the ways you can become more productive is by combining threads, because then you are using less resources to manage individual. This is why generality wins, because generality allows you to connect to more things. It gives you more optionality. Generality equals optionality. And it allows you to condense value into a singular focused thing across multiple different domains. And we call this synthesis, where it's basically taking multiple ideas, turning them into one thing, taking multiple projects, simplifying them, and making them basically have the same deliverable effect. So instead of having like 5 programs, you have one that does the job. Instead of multiple folders, you have one that does the job. Instead of multiple documents, you have one that does the job. So what we're going to do is we're going to weave together, or we're going to thread these different threads of the spider. Can you see how this mindset is useful in this framework for just thinking about things? Because when you thread things together, this is literally how you build your brain, by making novel connections between things and by organizing them, and especially when you can connect them or make them one thing. This is also summarizing, which we know the value of summarizing. It takes a lot of data and makes it packed into a small space, or a lot of value packed into a small space. This is basically the business strat. If you're trying to grow a business, you want to make the one package that has as much value as possible loaded into it. So when people look at it, they're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. It's a steal. I'm spending money, which is what my coaching program is, by the way. Link in the description if you want a free call. But we weave together these 3 mindsets, and what we get is management structure. Tarantula at the top, orb weaver in the middle, seller spider at the bottom. Tarantula makes executive decisions, takes very clear, concise action, basically forms operations. So you make an operation, you make a directive, you make a plan, you execute on that plan. It's manual. Orb weaver takes directives from the tarantula and is constantly reorganizing the system, trying to protect from entropy. Orb weaver can take tarantula directives or use some of its own executive power to tell seller spiders what to do, which in a personal knowledge management system or an AI agent orchestration system, what this would look like is probably a computer on the cloud that's running something like NemoClaw, which is the more secure version of OpenClaw. And you're kind of just telling it, do whatever you think is helpful. And then it gives it to the orb weaver. The orb weaver asks the tarantula, hey, is this helpful or just a distraction? And the tarantula can be like, yes, I want it, or no, I don't want it. Or the tarantula can basically tell the orb weaver to tell the seller spiders in more clear language what it wants. So this layer is mostly AI, some human organization. This one is all completely human organization, and what this would look like on a file system is basically a personal folder that AI is not allowed to touch, but it will help you clean up when it asks for permission. And the seller spiders are just kind of going nuts. God knows what they're doing. But they're funneling value up to the orb weaver, and the orb weaver is giving you clear and concise data. That's basically its job, and helping you organize your thoughts and these different threads going on in your life, and helping you strategize so that you can make highly effective decisions and use your tarantula mode mindset the most effectively. So I would say if you want to get a lot done, build a triweave. Build this system and have a tarantula mindset where you are aggressive, you are on the hunt, you're not really fiddling around with the web, but it's not like the web doesn't exist. It's there. And every now and again, you go there and you basically help the orb weaver architect the web. Once it's in a good place, you start adding seller spiders. And then this is an iterative process that goes on where the goal is to compact it as much as possible, as much value as possible. Think of the seller spiders as your little feelers. They could be used to go and check like AI news, to give you summaries of new programs. They could be used for market research and analysis. They could be used for making 20 different study plans and then sending them to the orb weaver and having the orb weaver build a mega study plan that is the most effective for you, or at least giving it to you, and then you flag what's going to work and iterate on it with the orb weaver, and then you have the final version, which is more tailor-made to you. But since the orb weaver has access to your personal knowledge management system, it probably knows how you operate fairly well. But sometimes AI gets pretty hyped. You need to manage that with prompts and with doing this like rebirth cycling, but it's manageable. So you want to be in tarantula mode 90% of the time, and you want to be helping the orb weaver build the web probably 10% of the time. And so over time, what happens is you have a system that works for you, and you can see more and make more clear decisions than the average person because you invested into tech in the age of technology and information. Who would have thought that that would be a good idea? It's almost like technology makes you more productive. If you really want to be a tarantula, what I recommend doing is getting a high-end Chromebook, something that has a little more RAM on it, only using Google services, but you activate the Linux CLI thing for it and you use anti-gravity to build your web. Just start playing around with it and you'll get the gist pretty quickly. Especially if you have ADHD, you learn rapidly. So that's your strength in the age of information, but you have to make sure that you build your guardrails or you're going to be cooked. If you would like to see more videos about productivity systems on this channel, let me know in the comments below. If you're interested in having somebody who thinks about systems architecture all the time, helping you design effective systems, if you're interested in somebody whose entire focus is productivity and efficiency, helping you build your web, there's a link in the description where you can book a free call and we can do a consultation or a coaching session. Even if you're uninterested in buying my stuff, I would love to have a nerdy conversation with you. By all means, please click the link down below. Subscribe if you want more content like this. If you want more valuable content to arrive on your homepage, which is a sort of web for you. Right now, you probably have a lot of random garbage, old crickets flailing around in there. But from one spider to another, I want to improve our chances. There is such a thing as a community spider that live in colonies. And that's the mindset I have, is I want to help other spiders like me so that we can keep helping each other so that we can all grow together. But that's all, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. Like, subscribe, you know the drill. Peace out.